John, we need to talk. It's just not working out.
Senator Cornyn, you misled us on the coronavirus.
You voted against funding for masks and ventilators.
And you're still trying to take away protections for people with pre-existing conditions.
It's not us, Senator.
It's you.
You won't fight for us.
And we found someone who will.
I'm MJ Hegar, and I approved this message because 18 years
Texas is the biggest battleground state.
And in 2020,
we have the opportunity to turn our state blue
up and down the ballot.
We have the opportunity to expand access to affordable health care, finance our public schools, strengthen our economy, and take meaningful action on gun violence. There's so much more in the United States Senate.
We have the opportunity to pave the way towards a more sustainable future at the Texas Railroad Commission.
We have the opportunity
to elect judges
and the justices
who will restore fairness, equality,
and balance
in our courts.
We have the opportunity
to shape the political future of Texas
and repair the broken systems that disenfranchise working families in our great state.
We have the opportunity to ensure that Texans in positions of power
embrace empathy,
open minds,
and swing open the doors of possibility.
By working together
and uniting behind our shared vision of a more inclusive world,
we will win back our state.
We will win because we have to.
We have to put an end to the hate, the lack of access, and the suffering.
We have to deliver on the fair shot that every Texan deserves.
Our cause,
our movement,
is about the restoration of justice and the expansion of opportunity.
None of this can be accomplished unless we work together.
In order to bring lasting change to Texas,
we must work alongside every down ballot candidate, every activist, and every Texas Democrat
to continue building the largest democratic movement our state has ever seen.
We're asking you to be a part of this historic fight.
Together, we will create a Texas that we can all believe and thrive in.
Together, we will save Texas and in turn, save the entire country.
Join us.
Join us.
She's traveled tens of thousands of miles, building a grassroots army across Texas. Millions of dollars raised, 56,000 donors. MJ Hegar for Senate, the leader Texas needs now more than ever. She holds the most promise for voters tired of the failing DC politics. Her military experience makes her the fighter Democrats need. A disruptor who can bring the fight, and a unifier who can reach across the aisle to get things done. And as MJ kicks into gear, Texas does too. Voter registration to 16.4 million, despite the pandemic. And Texas is moving towards Democrats in the ratings.
She's ready to fight in Washington.
MJ Hegar has been the top fundraiser by a relatively healthy margin. It is a different race. She has a good story, and I think it makes for a compelling race in 2020.
One of the top fundraisers in the state.
Wait. Hold on. You didn't think I was gonna let John off that easy, did you?
Then there's John Cornyn with an approval rating underwater.
He's been sort of an invisible man in Washington.
We see some favorability ratings that don't look so good. You're actually lower than President Trump, the governor, and Ted Cruz.
And the coronavirus?
Well, I think China is to blame because the culture where people eat bats and snakes and dogs and things like that.
The president has, I think, led well.
If you don't have any symptoms of the coronavirus, there's not a great reason to get tested. No one under the age of 20 has died of the coronavirus.
that we still don't know whether children can get it and transmit it to others.
That's ridiculous.
Well, welcome to the general election, John. A brutal Texas re-election battle. Your toughest race yet in a changing Texas, and your last.
Are you concerned at all with all this talk about Texas turning blue? And
well, I sure am.
Saddle up, Texas, because the Senate race is in full swing.
Good evening, Texas Democrats. My name is Cliff Walker, and I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Texas Democratic Party, and welcome to this, the final GOTV rally, hosted by the MJ Hegar for Senate campaign in the Texas Democratic Party. Just think, 5 short days from this very movement, the polls will have closed, and we will know the results of this, the most important election of our lifetimes. Texans, in the span of a single cycle, have gone from one of the lowest turnout states in the country to the best turnout state in the country so far. We can only get this done if we can continue this momentum, keep up the fight, and make sure that we don't just defeat Donald Trump and his enablers like the bootlicker John Cornyn, but solidly wallop the entire strain of Trumpism itself. Now, before we dive in, if you haven't voted yet, go right now to mytexasvotes.com. And if you have voted, please, right now, let every single person that you care about, if it's your spouse, your tío, your tía, your abuelo, your abuelita, your high school band teacher, your 8th grade crush, let them all hear from you that they need to vote and that they need to go to mytexasvotes.com, make a plan, go vote early, tomorrow being the last day to vote early, and make your voice heard in this truly life or death election. So before the polls open back up again tomorrow, let's get fired up for the fight ahead. Folks, we have an incredible lineup of Democratic luminaries for you again tonight, some of whom are from Texas and others who are friends of Texas, who are lending their voices and their platforms to the critical effort of turning Texas blue. So on that note, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. So I'm excited to get this rally started with a fellow San Antonian, former United States Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Julian Castro. In 2019, Secretary Castro launched an historic campaign for president grounded in the belief that every American should count. Secretary Castro was praised throughout his campaign for putting forth bold and comprehensive policy plans, substantive ideas to support vulnerable communities, and for leading the fight in speaking out on critical issues like police violence, homelessness, and poverty. Secretary Castro, welcome to the stage.
Hey, thanks a lot, Cliff. I want to say a huge thank you, gracias to you, to all of the Texas Democratic Party staff. I want to give a shout out to Senator Cortez Masto, who I know you're going to hear from, as well as Senator Warren and Congressman O'Rourke and everybody else on this call who's going to make sure that we do everything possible to get the vote out. Can y'all believe this? 5 days away from potentially turning 38 electoral votes over to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, Texas going Democratic for the first time since 1976, and changing the electoral map, I believe, for decades, if we can do it. And we can do it. We also can send MJ Hegar to the United States Senate, the first Democratic senator in about 30 years, and flip the Texas House, 9 more seats. I'm here in Houston tonight we did the Biden-Harris bus tour and came to Harris County and then went over to Fort Bend County. And what I see is tremendous energy. I'm looking forward to being in the Valley tomorrow. I know there's great energy there as well. I just wanted to say two things. First of all, thank you, because if you're on this call, the chances are that you've been doing a lot. Calling, texting, posting on Facebook and Twitter and social media to get people out to vote and let people know how they can vote. Thank you for doing that. And then secondly, I want to challenge you to redouble your efforts between now and when the polls close on Tuesday night. As Cliff said, to talk to everybody that you can to get them out to vote. We all know family members or friends, they have a lot of opinions, but oftentimes they don't actually go vote. It's too important this time for people to sit on the sidelines. We need them to get off the sidelines and into the voting booth. And we know what we're working for. We're working for an America and a Texas where everyone counts, where we have leaders who are big enough and wise enough and experienced enough to get us through this pandemic, get people back to work, and also to reach for the highest ideals of this country when it comes to equality and fairness, and people that won't shirk from the biggest challenges of our time, like combating climate change and embracing a new energy economy that can put people in Texas to work immediately. We know that we can make all of that happen. And when we do, on Tuesday night, it's going to be because of you. You all deserve the credit for turning Texas blue. So thank you for being on this call. Give it all you've got over the next 5 days. And I'll see y'all on Tuesday night.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you for joining us from the road on the Soul of the Nation bus tour, traveling all across this great state, getting folks inspired. You heard the charge from the Secretary. Every single thing that we can do, we're fighting on all fronts. And, as Leader Abrams mentioned yesterday night, if you're able to join us, we may be running on fumes by the end of this, but we're going to win this election fighting on fumes if we need to, because every single bit of effort is worth it. So next up, we're going to hear from Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who has served the state of Nevada in the United States Senate since 2017. Now, prior to serving and being elected to serve as the first Latina ever elected to the United States Senate, she fought for change in her community while serving as the Attorney General of Nevada, as well as the civil attorney in Las Vegas. Now, as the chair of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, Senator Cortez Masto is responsible for surveying every competitive United States Senate race and helping make sure that candidates in some of the top races get the resources they need to compete. And under her leadership, she has helped put and keep Texas on that battleground state map. So without further ado, thank you for being with us, Senator Cortez Masto.
Oh, Cliff, thank you. I am so excited to join all of you here tonight and to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about why MJ Hegar is going to help us flip Texas and the Senate next week. I am Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, as you heard, from the great state of Nevada, and as chair of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. One of the best parts of my job is getting to know incredible candidates like MJ. MJ is a fighter who isn't afraid to tackle the big issues head on. We have seen she's a force to be reckoned with. If you meet her, she never shied away from a challenge. And with her in the Senate, Texans will have a champion who always has their back. I have watched MJ, and I know her life exemplifies service and sacrifice. She has the courage and independence to stand up for what's right. And we are so proud to be standing with her in this race. Look, since the beginning of this election cycle, we have all been working towards one goal, and that is flipping the United States Senate. And I have good news for you. Because of strong challengers like MJ, Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans are on defense across the map, but especially right here in Texas, where this race has become a dead heat. I have watched. Republicans are nervous right now, and they should be. They know Texas is diverse and it's growing, and voters across the state are moving away from them. I don't need to remind all of you that this is the most important election of our lifetime. Healthcare, coronavirus, women's reproductive freedom, climate change, LGBTQ equality, voting rights, criminal justice reform, our dreamers, and so many other issues that we care about have been under attack in Mitch McConnell's Senate. And in just 5 days, we have the opportunity to win this Senate seat and make real progress on the issues that are so important to all of us. But the fight to elect MJ and a Democratic Senate majority is only possible thanks to the grassroots army you all have created. You know, your commitment is the reason that Texas has become the biggest battleground state in the country, where everybody's watching. And it's thanks to all of you that the right-wing billionaires and the big special interests are panicking right now about their chances in November, and rightfully so. Now is the time to keep working hard, and let's run through that tape together. We're at the final stretches of the marathon. We have to do everything we can in the next 5 days to send MJ to Washington and make sure we put our country back on the right path. So what I need from all of you tonight is a promise that you will give it your all in these final days. So chip into MJ's campaign, sign up for an extra volunteership, make sure you, your friends, your neighbors, and your family all have a plan to vote. So go to mjfortexas.com/voting to make that plan and get involved. And I just can't thank you all enough for what you are doing. And Secretary, it was great to see you. I am so pleased always to work side by side with you in your state, watching what you have done, watching what is happening now. We really have an opportunity, and it's thanks to all the great people out there in Texas who are working so hard. So thank you, everyone. Let's get the job done. We need to flip this Senate. We need to give Joe Biden somebody and a Congress that he can work with in the Senate, and we've got to make sure MJ gets elected. It's the only way we can flip this Senate. So thanks, everyone. Let's just get to work.
Thank you so much, Senator, for everything that you are doing for us here in the state of Texas. We're going to fulfill that promise and do everything that we can to get you a Democratic colleague coming out of the state of Texas. Now, next up, we have a sort of a special guest. You all know Carole King. She's an American singer and songwriter who's been writing and performing pop and soft rock classics for over the course of her decades-long career. In addition to providing countless musical numbers to our soundtracks, Carole has been a political and environmental advocate for many years and using her platform to push our country towards sustainability and towards progress. Let's welcome Carole King.
Hey, Texas, it's Carole King. Y'all know about the power of music, and I'm really glad you do. But this is about your power. John Cornyn is failing you. He's let thousands of lies from the BSer-in-chief go unchallenged, and he wants to end coverage for pre-existing conditions. As a combat veteran and a working mom with 2 kids, MJ Hegar knows how to challenge BS. She's running against Cornyn to fight for your health care, just as she fought to rescue soldiers in Afghanistan, even after her helicopter was shot down and she was wounded. I need you to vote for MJ as early as possible. If you've already voted, thank you. Go to mjfortexas.com, the word for, and volunteer, donate, or both. Use your power to make history and send MJ Hegar to the Senate. Come on, Texas!
Wasn't that a lovely message from Carole King? So happy that she is helping us here in this biggest battleground state in the country understand the stakes of what we're fighting for and help keep us fired up. Well, folks, a little bit of a personal aside. I had a milestone of a year at a 40th birthday this year, and it got me sort of reflecting. And I was thinking back to what I was doing when I was 18 years old, and I'll tell you what. It's nothing near what our next guest is doing at the ripe young age of 18. Marcel Mcclinton is already a leading young activist in Houston, and he's shown his home state of Texas and the entire country how young voters are more engaged now than ever before. At such a young age, he's made his home state here incredibly proud and has given so much hope to folks for the reforms that this generation is prepared to fight for and speak to incredibly eloquently. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Marcel.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for that introduction, and MJ for inviting me on. You're right, we are seeing young voters turn out in record numbers in Texas, even surpassing what we saw in 2018. And this, I give credit to one, Donald Trump and John Cornyn for being their best enemies, and two, for the work that TDP and organizers who I work with in campaigns and candidates like MJ's who are doing the hard work every single day on the ground. Y'all, I just want to emphasize and maybe re-emphasize for the 1000th time over the last 4 years that we cannot afford to lose this election. And I don't mean just Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I'm talking about Senator John Cornyn and down ballot candidates like Dan Crenshaw, who's running in my home district again to do us another disservice for 2 more years, or Akila Basie running to flip the state house in my home district of 138. And why can't we lose this race? Why can't we afford to lose this race? Because I'll take you back to a conversation that I had with MJ when I first met her, and that was in the middle of my campaign for Houston City Council, when I challenged a GOP incumbent. And what we talked about was the dire need for young voters in Texas to turn out en masse. And for the dire need or for the signal that we could send to the Republican Party of this state and this country if Texas turns blue because of youth leadership, because of the young electorate turning out in droves to apply pressure on issues like gun laws and enacting universal background checks, which are supported by 97% of Americans. Things that are not controversial, but just make sense. MJ and I, unfortunately, share a trauma of gun violence. I was in a church on a Sunday teaching Sunday school when a gunman went on a shooting rampage with an AR-15 for close to an hour, shooting my friend Denise through her car door. And MJ, a decorated combat war veteran, has served this country and protected the men and women who were in her helicopter when it went down. She took the oath to protect and serve the Constitution and the American people, as did John Cornyn, as did Donald Trump. And what have we seen for the last several years? We've seen a Senator John Cornyn who doesn't protect and defend the Constitution or his constituents, but we've seen a Senator John Cornyn who can disagree silently behind closed doors with a president who is a race baiter, who would like to incite a race war in this country, who would like to see the future of this republic fail so that my generation would inherit nothing but shambles and damage and shreds of a country. Then we have a fighter like MJ Hegar, who has proven her entire life and has dedicated her entire life to service of this country and to its morals. So I am so proud to support MJ. I want to reiterate that we are 4 days out from this election. You have 4 days to be tired and to be uncomfortable with the poll numbers, because they do not matter. What matters is how many doors you're hitting. I was out today in Fort Bend with my friend Dan, and we hit 300 more apartment doors. We do this every single day almost. And this is the work that's going to make the massive difference. We can do it. We must do it. Losing is not an option. Please support MJ. Hit the phones, hit the text messages, and go canvas.
Thank you so much, Marcel. I tell you what, for anyone who occasionally turns on the news and is a little concerned about the future of this country, just listen to folks like Marcel. Listen to this generation. If you need hope that everything can be okay, that we can fix the problems that we have right now and steer and redirect from this direction that we're heading in as a country, listen to folks like Marcel. Listen to this generation. All of this turnout that we're seeing nationally, or seeing statewide rather, that's making Texas the highest turnout state in the country. Guess what's driving that? Youth turnout. So thank you so much for being with us here tonight. We heard from our next speaker last night, and she pretty much left me speechless after her barn burner. I only wish I could have seen it in person, but it felt like I was right there with her. Leader Stacey Abrams She wasn't born a Texan, but we consider her an honorary Texas Democrat, not just because she's a Longhorn, but because she believes and supports what we're building right here. Leader Abrams has invested in this infrastructure, and she's vowed to protect ballot box access for millions of Texas voters. And across this country, not simply in Georgia and in Texas, across the nation, she's making sure that our right to vote is not corrupted or endangered. We can't thank her enough for being in this fight alongside us and for leading us towards a more equitable future. Stay tuned for a special message from Leader Abrams.
Hi, my name is Stacey Abrams, and I'm supporting MJ Hegar for Senate in Texas. MJ is a decorated combat veteran, a working mom, and at her core, she's a fighter. She has faced struggles head on, and she's not afraid to stand up to those who would corrode our political system. We are a nation that moves forward by electing warriors willing to defend our country. This year, the stakes are too high to sit this one out. So, I'm asking you to get involved. Go vote. Make a plan with your family and friends to decide how you're going to vote for MJ, and then get out there. John Cornyn is counting on you to stay home and to continue to believe that we can't win. Let's show him and Texas that we can't lose. Vote for MJ Hegar and get involved at mjfortexas.com. Thank you, and let's get it done.
Is a voice to be reckoned with, truly one of the most crucial voices in American politics today. Leader Abrams, so happy twice in a row, twice in 2 nights. Y'all are very lucky. We're also lucky to have her speaking to us here in the great state of Texas. So our next guest, throughout this entire election cycle, actor and native Texan, Ben McKenzie, has been doing the hard work, has been in the trenches with us, working to turn Texas blue up and down the ballot. Now, you know his name because he's been gracing our screens for many years now, notably as the lead in the series The OC, and most recently in the show Gotham. But it's thanks to Ben's lending Texas the platform that he's built, that he has helped elevate our state in the national conversation. And he's helped a little website called 38for38.com raise more from online grassroots donations than any state party in history in the course of a single week. Ben, thank you so much for lending your voice to this movement. We're so happy to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Cliff. And thank you to everyone at the Texas Democratic Party for having me tonight. Everyone at MJ's campaign, MJ herself, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be a part of such an incredible group of speakers, and I'm honored that it's speakers from not just my home state, but from across the country. The eyes of the nation are clearly on the state of Texas, and for this lifelong Texas Democrat, I'm 42 years old. I have just one thing to say: it's about damn time. It has been a long time since we have been a part of the national conversation politically, but with incredible candidates like MJ Hegar, I got news for our Republican friends. We are back, baby, and we ain't going anywhere. And that brings me to 2 things that I'd like to point out here that I think are important as we look towards ending this election cycle next week, God willing, and we contemplate the future. Number 1. To me, Texas holds the key to the future dominance of the Democratic Party in national politics. If we win in Texas next week and deliver those 38 electoral votes for Joe Biden, we crush the Republicans' ability to use the Electoral College to effectively overturn the will of the people as expressed through the popular vote. If we win next Tuesday in Texas, it will suddenly dawn on the esteemed members of the opposing party that, gee, maybe you can't win national elections with policies that promote racism and xenophobia, misogyny, homophobia. Of the 8.5 million Texans or so who have voted already, we're seeing incredible numbers of young and first-time voters, as well as older voters of color, these voters ain't buying what the Republicans are selling. And the Republicans who want to be relevant past 2020, they're going to have to wise up real fast. So that's number one. Texas is the future of the Democratic Party, in my humble opinion. I believe that in my heart. I believe that in my soul. Number two is MJ Hegar is a total frickin' badass who can bring that rosy future for the Democratic Party into the present. Like the decorated medevac pilot that she is, she can land this baby here for us in Texas. She can bring it home on election day. To me, a kid who grew up in Austin and has watched for decades as the GOP has masterfully manipulated the levers of power to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Texans in order to hold on to that power, it can be pretty rough going, as I mentioned at the top. But like Stella, Texans are getting their groove back. That's a 1998 reference for you. But a total frickin' badass like MJ Hegar, she reminds me of a certain other Texan who spoke truth to power and won over the hearts of Texans from across the ideological spectrum, Ann Richards. Ann Richards didn't cower in the face of the extraordinary obstacles she faced in her life, and neither does MJ. She's been fighting for us, whether literally on the battlefield or metaphorically on the campaign trail, for her entire life. But like in combat, she needs the help of her fellow soldiers to accomplish her mission. And that's why we're all here tonight, right? We need to do every last thing we can in these last few days to push her over the top. Phone bank, text bank, call your friends and family, get them to the polls. Have that awkward conversation with your Trump supporting aunt or uncle or non-voting aunt or uncle. Get them to the polls. We all have to vote. Get everyone you know to vote. We do that next week, we win. We do that, Joe Biden is the next president of the United States. MJ Hegar is our next senator from the Lone Star State, and we will shock the world. Thanks.
Saying it like it is. Getting our groove back. We are back, baby, indeed. We're going to prove it. We're going to shock the world. Here's the thing. Republicans won't be too shocked because they know what's coming. They see it. They see it too. They see the same numbers that we do, and they're scared. They're shaking in their boots. They're calling out the SOS to try to get any support they can. But you know what? They've made their bed, as they say, and now they'll have to lie in it. Thank you so much for being with us, Ben. I want Ben McKenzie as a hype man for me any day of the week. Any day of the week.
You got it.
Next up, next up, we have another Texas native and another familiar face, world-renowned actress Eva Longoria, who's no stranger to fighting the good fight. Throughout her career as an actress, producer, director, and activist, she frequently uses her platform to support political causes and call attention to the issues impacting the Latino community. We're so honored to be able to hear from her tonight. On that note, please welcome Eva Longoria.
Hi, y'all. I'm Eva Longoria. Texas, I'm asking you to get out and vote for MJ Hegar for the United States Senate and for all the great Democrats running up and down the ballot. There are some amazing candidates in Texas. Something big is happening across Texas, y'all. State by state, county by county. Texans are turning out in huge numbers, shattering records across the state, even in the nation. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. People all over know they deserve better, they want better, they're fired up, and they're ready for it. Our country is in crisis. We need new leaders who have faced the same challenges Texas families face every single day. And MJ is that person. And the Democratic candidates up and down the ballot, they're gonna fight for families like the one, like mine. Like the one I grew up in Corpus Christi. We all know we're living in unprecedented times with a pandemic that's not gonna go away under our current leadership who has zero plan. Latino communities have been especially hit hard by the pandemic. And Senator Cornyn spent months playing it down even though he knew how bad it could get. Texans deserve better, and MJ will deliver it. And I know that because MJ is a fierce mama bear to her 2 young boys. She's going to fight for Texas families, just like she fights for her own. And as a combat veteran, MJ has taken a lot of tough fights. She's taken on a lot of tough fights. She fought for her crew when her helicopter was shot down. She fought for women in the military when she took on the Pentagon to open ground combat roles to women. MJ has what it takes to fight for Texas in Washington, and she'll get our economy back on track. She's going to expand healthcare access to every single Texan. There's only 5 days left, y'all, so make a plan to vote at mjfortexas.com/voting. Reach out to all your family and your friends and your neighbors and make sure they have plans too. If you've already voted, call somebody, get involved with the campaign in these final days. You can make phone calls, you can send texts just from your home. You don't need to leave. Help your communities get out there and exercise their right to vote. Let's win this, Texas. Let's win this, y'all. MJ for U.S. Senate.
Thank you so much, Eva, for again lending your voice. I saw a press release. I think that Eva did somewhere around a dozen local interviews across the state. She's been virtually canvassing all across this state, talking to every single voter that we can, doing all we can to leave it out in the field. Thank you again for lending your voice. You know, our next guest, I don't even know how to introduce this person. You all know who this person is. You know, when he was running for the U.S. Senate in 2018, you were there, Beto, where it captured the enthusiasm of the entire nation. He campaigned and showed up in all of our 254 counties, and throughout it all, he made Texans believe in the power of their very own voices. Now, most recently, Beto launched the organization Powered by People, which is aimed at uplifting our incredible slate of candidates, particularly those running down ballot for the Texas House. And he's pouring that same energy, his heart, and his soul into getting the vote out here in Texas. So it is my pleasure to introduce one of, if not the hardest working man in Texas politics, Beto O'Rourke.
Hey, Cliff, thank you for having me on and for the very kind introduction. I think the story right now is bigger than any single person, candidate, or even our party. The fact that Texas 3 years ago was dead last, 50th in the country in voter turnout, and not because we don't love our democracy or participating in our elections. We were literally drawn and legislated that way. The most onerous voter ID laws, 750 polling place closures since the Shelby decision in 2013. Most of those closures concentrated in the fastest growing Black and Latino neighborhoods in the state of Texas. A gerrymander that was described as a racial gerrymander by a 3-judge federal panel. And then the latest shenanigans from our Republican Governor Greg Abbott, where absentee ballot drop-off locations have been removed all across the state to make it harder for people to vote. And yet, despite our low finish in prior years, despite the most voter suppressive laws of any state in the country, Texas is now #1 in America, #1 in votes cast, #1 in voter turnout relative to 2016, and #1 in youth voter turnout. And we all know the stories of folks who waited in lines 7 or 8 hours in order to cast a ballot, folks who showed up at one polling place who were sent to another, folks who have to prove their identity not once but twice over and over again. And yet people show up, have the courage of their convictions, and know that this election may very well hinge on their vote. And they're going to do everything within their power to make sure that they cast it. That would not be possible without this reinvigorated Texas Democratic Party. I've never seen it so well capitalized, so well organized, so strategic in how it ensures that it connects with the voters who will decide the outcomes of these elections. And I've never seen such great help from our expatriate friends, whether it's Eva Longoria or Ben McKenzie or others who are lending their talent and followers and funds to make sure that we have the resources to compete effectively in the state of Texas. So I want to thank everyone who's made that possible. And I want to say this, MJ Hegar is running one of the most courageous campaigns in America right now, perhaps one of the most courageous campaigns that has been run in any state at any time. Against the odds, against the conventional wisdom, initially against the polls, which have tightened up considerably, she has done this her way. And she's done it her way so she can do it for all of us. She wants to make sure that she leads with the courage of her convictions, that she represents every Texan, really regardless of any difference between us, whether that is party, geography, race, religion, sexual orientation, or the country of our national origin. She wants to be there for each and every Texan and represent us in the United States Senate. And she's running that kind of campaign, going everywhere that she possibly can under the most trying circumstances in the most difficult of years. And I think when you look at everyone who's pitching in and the caliber of our candidates right now and the persistence of the Texas voter, we may just have what it takes this year to win up and down the ballot, those important state house races that will produce a Democratic majority for the first time in nearly 20 years. And that infrastructure of voter suppression that I mentioned can be dismantled by them. Congressional pickups, the critically important railroad commissioner, which has nothing to do with locomotives and everything to do with oil, gas, the environment, and confronting climate change before it's too late. Joe Biden becoming the first Democratic nominee to win the 38 electoral college votes of Texas since Carter did it in '76. And when he does that on election night, it becomes mathematically impossible for Donald Trump to claim victory or attempt to steal this election or contest it in the courts. Texas on November 3rd could end our national nightmare. And this, MJ Hegar defeating Donald Trump's most reliable enabler, somebody who's complicit in every decision that horrifies us, whether it's kids in cages, children being torn from the arms of their parents, the racism in which our president openly traffics, the failure to confront COVID and the worst recession since the Great Depression. It's not just Donald Trump, it's people like John Cornyn who make that possible. MJ Hegar is going to defeat him. She's going to make us proud in the Senate, and she will flip control of that chamber from red to blue to make sure that Joe Biden can enact the most progressive, ambitious agenda in this country's history. So MJ, go out there, keep kicking some ass. Let's all get after it, have your back, and make sure that we see this through till 7:01 p.m. Mountain Standard Time when the polls close in El Paso, Texas, and we begin to report the early vote. So grateful for what you're doing. Thank you, MJ.
Thank you so much for being with us here, Beto. You can always just see the motion whenever Beto is on camera. He's just zooming all across this state. He's out there knocking doors with some of our partners like the Texas Organizing Project. I heard a podcast a little earlier. I think it was in Dallas. He may be in McAllen right now. He's really pouring his heart and soul into making sure that we do every single thing that we can to get this job done for MJ, for the State House, and for candidates up and down the ballot. Next up, before she became a United States Senator, Elizabeth Warren was at the forefront of big structural change. A former law professor who spearheaded the establishment of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Elizabeth Warren spent her career fighting for justice and for working families. She taught us to dream big and fight hard, and that is the magic of Elizabeth Warren. So without further ado, I give you the senator from the great Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Hello, Texas Democrats. Now, we are in the final stretch of the election, and like so many of you, I'm fighting like hell to elect MJ Hegar to the United States Senate. MJ is the leader that Texans deserve during this time of crisis. As a decorated combat veteran and a working mom who has lived through many of the challenges facing Texans, MJ is a proven fighter. She will ensure every Texan has affordable health care, economic opportunity, and a government that works not just for corporate special interests and bazillionaires, but that actually works for people. At a time when working families are being squeezed to their breaking point, we need fighters in the United States Senate like MJ who embody the unwavering commitment to put families first. MJ will fight for real results for the people of Texas and for working families all across this country. And that's why I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with her in this fight and in the many fights to come. So today, I'm asking you to do two things. First, vote for MJ Hegar. Vote, vote, vote. Vote early, mail in your ballots, make a plan to vote on election day. Do whatever it takes to make sure that your voice is heard. But second, don't stop there. Recruit your friends and your family and everybody you work with and go to school with to vote like democracy depends on it, because it does.
Senator Warren, so great to have her once again talking to us Texas Democrats, getting us fired up for the big, big election night that we're about to experience in just 5 or 4 short days. I'm having a hard time keeping track of the countdown. It's coming so quickly. But next up, get this. During her first term as United States Representative, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to the people of El Paso, and as one of the first of 2 Latinas ever elected to represent Texas in Congress, she has led with persistence, and she has used her voice to call for necessary and crucial reforms. We're so proud to be in this fight alongside Congresswoman Escobar. Thank you for fighting for our Texas values in Washington. Congresswoman Escobar.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, a proud Congresswoman for El Paso, Texas, a beautiful, safe, and secure community on the U.S.-Mexico border. I am so excited about supporting MJ Hegar and really excited about the prospect of having her as our U.S. Senator. You all know that on August 3rd of 2019, El Paso suffered an incredibly tragic event. We found ourselves at the crossroads of America's hate epidemic and gun violence epidemic. When we needed strong leaders to stand up for us and to fight for gun violence prevention legislation, what did John Cornyn do? He turned around and he took money from the NRA instead. And when we needed a defender to stand up against Donald Trump's racism that fuels the kind of hate that increases violence across our country, the kind of hate that was brought to El Paso on that horrible day, what did John Cornyn do? He instead stood firmly with Donald Trump and became and was and has been one of his chief enablers. Everyone, it's time for bold, courageous, ethical leadership. It's time for MJ Hegar.
After a single term in the Congress, Congresswoman Escobar's voice has been elevated, is amplified. Her megaphone has really impacted countless lives and has really influenced the conversation. I cannot wait to see what happens in a second term and more from Congresswoman Escobar. Next up, something a little different. Tammy Dusek is the state organizing lead volunteer for MJ's crew. Tammy has spent countless hours managing the volunteer regional lead program and hosting dozens of volunteer events. Tammy was a school teacher for much of her life. She lives in McKenzie, Texas, and has worked tirelessly to send strong women like MJ to Washington so that they can represent the great state that she and all of us love. So honored to have you with us here, Tammy. Thank you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you, Cliff. I appreciate the opportunity. I am the state organizing lead volunteer for the MJ for Texas campaign. We've been building this team for more than a year now and fighting hard to get MJ elected to the Senate. The plan from the very beginning was to build a team that is sustainable, that will continue after November 3rd. Our regional volunteer program has phone banked, collaborated with local groups, and built relationships. First goal, send MJ to DC and elect Democrats up and down the ballot. And on November 3rd, if each and every one of us gets out there and votes and keeps volunteering in the remaining days of this election, we're going to do just that. We won't stop there. There is much work to be done in Texas, from redistricting to healthcare. We will not stop holding politicians who have sold Texans out accountable, and we will keep fighting for a stronger, more equal Texas. I am so excited to be amongst all these incredible people tonight, encouraging everyone to get out and vote. This election is an election that could be the most important of many generations. I was fortunate to meet MJ at an event in Frisco in February, just before the pandemic shut us down. While I sat listening to her that evening, I heard a person that I wanted representing me in Washington. I heard a person that truly understood the majority of Texans worry about. I saw myself sitting at the kitchen table talking to her about what keeps me up at night. Yes, MJ is a working mom. Yes, MJ is a veteran who has earned a Flying Cross and a Purple Heart. But most importantly, MJ is a Texan who knows how to get the work done. I'm so honored to get to introduce the person who I know will be the next senator from Texas, MJ Hegar.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Oh my goodness, what a great introduction. And I got to tell you, I am so humbled by how many hours and how much hard work people like you have put into this campaign. And all I can tell you is I will not let you down. Every time I want to take a break, every time I want to take a breather, I think about you, Tammy, Marcel, Cliff, all of y'all doing such amazing work. We've got great volunteers. We have a great team. If you're watching this right now and you've always wanted to get involved, but you've been a little bit shy and you don't know if, you want to really be calling people, and I'm telling y'all, at this point, it is GOTV for people we've already ID'd as supporters. The conversations are inspiring. The feeling that you get when you feel like you've been kicked in the gut, when you hear that we have 545 kids separated from their families, when you hear about the COVID deaths, when you hear about the suffering and the pain of the people here in Texas because we've been sold out by our leaders. The antidote to that feeling is action. And I'm telling you, partner with Tammy, join our team. And if you don't want to join our team, join a team, because we've all got an oar in the water and we're all pulling in the same direction, y'all. Up and down the ballot, we got to elect great people. I know that if I win this race and I don't bring everybody with me as much as possible, I can't get done what I want to get done. And there's no sense in me going to DC if I can't go there with flipping our Senate, flipping our state house, adding a few seats to the U.S. House, getting Biden in. I mean, the Texas Supreme Court just totally increased voter suppression again. We've got to get better people elected to the Texas Supreme Court. They're on the ballot. A lot of great candidates on the ballot. The further down the ballot the race is, the more likely you are to not know that much about them, but the more impact that race has on your life. And when you're phone banking and texting, you're able to talk to folks about this and really inform them. But, phone banking and texting right now is not just about winning this election. I know that this election is all we're thinking about. But frankly, last cycle, we were building on a lot of the data that was gathered during Wendy's campaign in 2014. And then again in 2016 with the presidential, and then in 2018, we won some, we lost some, we had our hearts broken on some. We certainly would have liked to have seen Ted Cruz get retired, but we are now building on top of that foundation. And every cycle we're layering and we're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And so, the civic engagement, the more people who are involved and are voting, the healthier our democracy, the habit pattern of voting and being civically engaged that you're able to help people get to through phone banking and text messaging. It just has a ripple effect, and it's going to impact us next cycle as we try to unseat Greg Abbott. We got a lot of work to do, y'all. We're going to win a lot on November 3rd, and we'll take a minute to celebrate, but the work starts on the 4th. The work starts the next day on the next cycle, and what else can we win, and what results can we deliver for Texans to make sure that in 2024, when they go to the ballot box, They remember, gosh, in just 2 short years, we have so many better elected officials that are servant leaders, and my life is demonstrably better. I have access to healthcare. We have immigration reform that's more in line with our American values. We've got this COVID pandemic under control. The economy is recovering for regular, hardworking people and not just the wealthy special interests and CEOs. Y'all, sometimes I feel like I'm riding like a galloping horse alongside like an out of a control train, and I'm going to try to jump from that horse to the train and get this thing under control, because we got to get people elected in office who have experience with crisis management and who understand how to bring in experts and make objective, metric, data-driven decisions that can get this pandemic under control, can get our economy back up and running, and can offer, access to healthcare for people. John Cornyn's been in office for 18 years. A third of that time, he's had a majority in the House and Senate, and he's had the White House. So all the things he's been promising for 18 years that he hasn't been able to get any action on, either he's lying and was not fighting for those things, or he's completely ineffective at getting those things done. We have an opportunity. The whole world is watching what's happening in Texas right now, and they're wondering who we are. They know they don't know who we are because of our low voter turnout, but they're wondering now. This is our opportunity to tell the world who we are as a state, who we are as a country, that we deserve the mantle of leaders of the free world, and that we are going to fight for that. And we are still the land of opportunity, a beacon of freedom and hope and democracy throughout the world. I believe those things. I took an oath to the Constitution. This race is my fulfillment of that oath. And selfishly, this race is my way of trying to protect my kids and all of our kids. There's so much work to be done, y'all, but that is not a bad thing. It is a good thing that we have so much opportunity. It would be a bad thing if we had, all of these, the crises that we are in the middle of, and the people that are in office have just done the best that they could. That would be a tough place to be in. But all the crises that we have in front of us are coupled with incompetent, ineffective, self-interested leaders who, if we replace, we can fix these problems, y'all. So let's elect ass-kicking problem solvers and do it up and down the ballot. Don't stop at the top. Look down ballot, flip the state house, find a candidate, find a race that you're excited about, volunteer. There is no time like the present. Leave it all out on the field. You're going to sleep like a baby no matter what the election's results are if you feel like you have done everything that you can. So let's get out the vote, y'all. Let's keep shocking the world. And then on November 3rd, hopefully by the night of the 3rd, maybe the morning of the 4th, we are going to tell the nation and the country and the world who we are. And I am confident that when we do that, we are going to be so proud. So thank you for standing with me. I cannot do this alone. Y'all have been in the trenches with me from the beginning. James Tallarico just said recently, it's like the Olympics. People are doing all this really hard work, and then people pay attention all of a sudden when the games are on TV, and then they feel like it's, the only thing that's important, and we just want to hear that anthem, and that's great. But boy, I'm talking to a lot of people who have been doing the work and have putting in the time, and it's going to pay off this cycle. It's going to pay off next cycle. It is the dawn of a new age here in Texas. And I am excited that Texas Democrats like Ben haven't forgotten about us and are using their position and their voice to help us. Because frankly, I am so excited to be a part of this moment, because this is the moment we the fighters take back our state from the bootlickers and the lapdogs. So thanks for being in this with me. Thank you, Cliff, for hanging in there all of this time with all these Zoom meetings. You've been amazing. And let's do it, guys. Let's get it done.